Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful Friday evening. So we are doing a little bit something different this evening. If you're joining, we are actually conducting our first roundtable. I do have guests already in the studio, sitting in the background, just waiting. But what I wanted to talk about before I did that was just to get all the particular stuff out of the way that I usually do just about every show. So, guys, if you're watching live, we are streaming live on Twitter, guys. So you can check us out on Twitter at our handle there at MFSB Live on Twitter, guys. We are streaming live. Drop it in the comments, let you know that you're watching. We will pull up questions. So if you do have a question for any of the panelists of this evening or the guest, please note it, put a Q in front of it. And if you have it addressed to somebody, please do that as well. We're only going to try to be pulling up questions and bringing them into the live show as well. So guys, thank you so much if you're watching there on Twitter. We are also streaming live on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can check us out on our YouTube channel. And that is at www.youtube.com/C/ Made from Scratch broadcast on YouTube. If you're watching there, do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. We are trying to build our viewership as always. Hit the notification bell as well. It will let you know whenever we do drop new content and new live videos, and whenever we do schedule new material. Okay, so check us out on YouTube as well. And then you can go to LinkedIn. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, guys. You can check us out by sending a connection to me on LinkedIn, and I will gladly accept. I try to answer all the people who connect with me on LinkedIn. So if you're not connected with me, please send me a connect. I will be glad to answer it. And then you can watch our lives every single night, Monday through Friday. So again, there you guys, we are streaming live on LinkedIn. And finally, we are streaming live on Facebook, and you can check us out on our Facebook page, and that is at www.com/ Made from Scratch podcast. A little bit different there on our Facebook page. And then if you're connected with me on Facebook, you can connect personally with me as well, and you can watch it there as well. And then I will also lead you to the website. Go to www.madefromscratchpodcast.com, and we do stream live there as well. So now that we got all that out of the way, guys, what I wanted to talk about is we're going to be introducing my panel for this evening. I do have multiple guests, so we're going to try to do a little bit of a roundtable, and I will be bringing in guests in and out all night long. So let me go ahead and start by introducing a few of the people who I do have in the waiting room. So let me go ahead and start by, hold on, let me pull the banner out. I don't like that. That kind of gets in the way. So let me introduce first, guys. One of the guests for this evening, Annie Lieb. She is my co-host of the Mind Games podcast. She is gracious enough to join me this evening. And then, of course, we are having Anthony.
Anthony,
why something about
it's all good.
Anthony, I am sorry, Anthony. I do apologize. I try to practice that, but again, gosh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, and then we got, and then I got Mila Deschamps. She is, if you don't follow her on Twitter, she has her own live stream that she does, and Mila is, she has her Chief of Hearts, which if you're not connected with her, check her out there as well. She is pretty awesome, and of course, let me bring in Katie. So Katie is hello, Katie. How are you doing? And then Katie actually met through one of my other guests, Mike Padrona, who's sitting back in the waiting room. She was actually had the opportunity to be on my show, and then she was also a guest with. She was live on Tea with Gary Vee. So she's starting to build her own voice and starting to connect with a lot of people. And I wanted to get her view about the youth because she is only 18. So she is the future of where we are, where we're headed. And hopefully she's one of the future leaders in this world and that sort of thing. And then I am going to bring in Harpreet. Harpreet is another guest of mine. She has been on the show as well. She actually works for Microsoft. Is that correct? Okay. So I'm trying to remember because I'm on episode 74 and I think she was episode 38. So that's how long ago it's been. And I'm trying to remember just off the top of mind everybody's episode. So let me go ahead and start the conversation, folks. And, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and the reason that we're bringing this up is about, the event of last week. And it all started, of course, with what happened in Minnesota and the death of George Floyd. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask each and every one of you, well, before we do that, let's start off. Kind of give a brief introduction, everybody. Let's go top, middle. Annie, you can go ahead and start first. Just give a little bit introduction of who you are and kind of what you do for business or whatever it is.
I'm Annie Lieb. I am Gabriel's partner. We've just started a podcast. He's my man. For about the brain, mental health awareness, and things of that nature. And I'm an executive, and I just graduated with my executive MBA from St. Joe's in Philly. Yay! And I'm a mom, most importantly. So I am here to be a voice, to listen, and to hopefully get some things, some action plan for us to move forward.
Okay. Anthony, you're next up. Go ahead and give us a little bit about yourself as well. Kind of let everybody know about what you do, and then of course you are a live streamer as well. So kind of let everybody know about that as well.
So my name is Anthony Tavelis. I am an executive coach in technology as well as a technology trainer, and I look at advancing humanity in technology through my coaching and training. And like Annie, I am here to be another voice, so that we can make a change and abolish hate and really bring out the love for all of humanity.
Okay, Harpreet, you're on the clock. It's on you now. Uh-oh. Yeah, turn up your volume just a crank, just a little bit. Technical difficulties, but this always happens. There we go. Uh-oh. Okay, well, let's see. No. We can barely hear you. Why don't you go? Okay. All right, I'm going to pull you out. I'll pull somebody else in. That way we can work out the technical difficulties. I'll bring in Tracy. Tracy, you're on the clock. Just kind of give us a brief overview of who you are and, what you do for a living, and kind of explain what you're here to help, hopefully all of us learn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Mebane Jones. I'm glad to be part of this. And thanks to Annie Lee, Annie, our great friends. What happened, what I expect to learn here is some kind of understanding. What happened to George Floyd just impacted me and my family greatly. So my thing is, what's the next steps?
Yeah.
How could we bridge this gap between the police and the public?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Awesome.
And I don't want to sit back and do nothing. I have a Black son and a Black daughter, and that could happen to them as well. So I'm here to get some insight from you guys on the next steps. What can we do as a community?
Awesome. Yeah. So, going forward, we will go into that a little bit further in just a second, Tracy. I'm just trying to get a brief overview of everybody. I think I might have muted your mic. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Let me go ahead and ask to our next guest, Katie, kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit what you're here to learn and how you're going to help kind of express yourself, because you are the youngest of the group. So your experiences aren't as deeply rooted as the rest of us, but your perspective is just as important. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Katie.
Yeah, so my name's Katie Dundorf, and a lot of what I've been trying to do, even before any of this happened, was to create an Instagram and create kind of a social platform to spread love and positivity. And I think that's where I'm coming from. And I think now that so much has happened in the world, it's something we need more than ever. And I think the more conversations we can have to really bridge those gaps between communities is something that's really why I'm here. And hopefully I can bring a fresh perspective and a kind of new angle, being that I am 18 years old. So I'm excited to continue.
Yeah, and she's had a different experience from the rest of us. Again, she had to graduate high school during COVID-19. So again, having that, the common things that you would have to actually go through, or walking across the stage and having a prom, all this stuff was taken from her because of this. But again, I love the fact that she still has a positive attitude about life and going forward. So let's go to you, Mila. Kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Right. My name is Mila Dufour, and I'm a culture scientist. My mission is to end the poverty of the mind and the heart, which causes fear and hatred. So I am the founder of Chief of Hearts, which is a culture science company. I help leadership, executive leadership, management, in how we can truly value humans from the core. So that's the work that I do, and I'm really passionate. And the work that I do is all across platforms. I enable people's voices. I bring the invisible visible, because as an immigrant to the United States, I have experienced racism, discrimination at a very deep level, and I've witnessed my colleagues and my friends who are Black friends who are other POCs being discriminated. So my mission through my work is to eliminate poverty of the mind and the heart, and really enable people and place people as opposed to displacing them.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Mila, so much. So let me let Harpreet introduce herself. I'm going to pull myself out of the screen. I'm going to let Mike introduce himself. So Mike, I hope you're ready, my friend. So I'm out, you're in. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Harpreet. Kind of. It's still a little on the quiet side, though.
Oh my God. Okay, why don't you go ahead and introduce?
All right.
Switch off my thing.
All right. My name is Mike Paterano. I am a lot of things in this world. I connect people. I try to help as many people as I possibly can. I try to bring people together. And I'm here because I want to break my silence, right? I'm done being silent and sitting on the sidelines. I'm done living as a privileged white male in America, right? To where I don't have to worry about it because it's not my problem. When in reality, I'm a single father of 3, and I do not want my kids raised into this world like that. So I want this bridge gap. I want unity. I want to overcome these things. I want to see the world be a much more unified place for my children. And I want to see it come together in a way that equality is really the main purpose of everything that we do. I think this is an educational opportunity for the world. I feel like sharing the different perspectives will enlighten all of us in some way and increase bonds and grow as society. Harpreet, you want to try again?
I want to try again.
There you go.
Yes.
Hey, that's what happens. I have 3 mics, as a tech mom, right? If one doesn't work, the other one works. Okay, I am Harpreet Kaur. I'm a tech leader at Microsoft. I'm leading the Windows Server team out there, so I'm not going to talk about the tech. But, I'm a mom of 2. I'm a brown minority mom of 2. And all 4 of us, including my husband and my kids, they wear turbans, beautiful turbans. So we do look different. We do get all the eyes, but today is not about me, right? And so I'm a mom of 2. I'm a tech leader. I'm an abstract artist. You can see some of my art in the background. And I'm a speaker. But I am with all of you today. When Mike, asked me to be here, I'm here because our friends are suffering. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's not about others are not, but, I have 2 kids. The analogy I'm using is this morning I was in my town hall as well at Microsoft. And I said, if 2 of my kids are sick, if one of get, beaten by or slaughtered in front of me, I will take care of that one first before I tend to my second one. So let's tend to the problem at hand and then take action. And then, yes, why do we need people like George and Brianna to be happening to speak up, right? So again, short thing, but we'll go round and round on this and take actions.
Well, thank you, Harpreet. We're glad that you're here. Honestly, I admire you tremendously, and I appreciate you being here. I really do.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Well, that would help if I started my camera. There we go. Playing around with this, figuring it out as we go live. So one of the things, like I said, so everybody that's in the background can also hear the conversations as well. So one of the questions that I want to pose to every single one of you, and I kind of just laid it out a little bit before we went on live, was the fact that I wanted to talk about the George Floyd video. So I wanted to ask every single one of you, have you all seen the video? Has everybody seen it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next question was, what was your first reaction and what were the first emotions that you felt after you saw what had happened after all 8 minutes of what he had to go through?
I was enraged, absolutely, positively filled with rage. And I couldn't breathe myself because, like Harpreet just so beautifully said, it brought me to tears. Our friends are suffering and he was suffering. And that was so vile to me. And that was also the other thing that I thought of was that's a cold-blooded murderer. That is murder right in front of us as people watched.
I will say, interestingly, or, I don't know, my 14-year-old watched it before me. And he was the one who came to me and he said, Mom, did you see? And, as a busy mom, day in, day out when you're working, and I'm like, no. And he was the one who told me, Mom, you need to watch it. And then he asked me another question the next day. Mom, do you fear for me? I don't know what to say to that 14-year-old. I don't know how much mentally I've been checking on him. Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm here to talk. He seems to be fine, but I know that it's impacting our future generation.
I'm sorry, I pulled Mike out, but again, guys, I'll pull him back in here in just a second. But to your point, Harpreet, we had to gut-wrenchingly watch that, and then it's not so much about what we feel as the adults. It's what the kids are worried about, what they see, how that impacts them. I mean, here's the thing: if my life ends tomorrow, I lived 45 years, right? That's great. I've lived 45 years, no matter what hell goes on. But can you imagine being an 18-year-old kid and having your life ended? 18, 14, 13. Being a young black kid in the streets and seeing your friends, seeing best friends, seeing people you love and you grew up with die and being treated like animals sometimes that has to fuck with your mind and the psyche of what you do as a person. That's how you react. And, I even now I have, I know people who've actually had friends or family or somebody like that taken from them because of their race, being Hispanic here in Texas. Being taken down and sitting in holding cages down at the border, away from family, away from what they've known their whole lives. Again, sitting there waiting and going, now what am I supposed to do with life? Right? There's so many things wrong with the system. There's so many things that we don't say nothing, we don't address because we have our own lives too busy to go on. Everybody's too busy involved in what's going on in their own lives. I have this to take care of. I have this to take care of. But you know what? I think whenever it happens to somebody close to us, or when it happens, that's when it becomes an issue. Thing is, the issue's always been there. It's just we don't pay attention to it enough. We don't watch what happens. We don't get involved unless it's involved with us, unless it comes to our front door. And that's what I'm trying to get people to hopefully understand today is even if you hear the conversation, what I'm talking about, that at some point in your life or some point in the next few months, days, whatever, you take the steps to go change this. We all have the ability to. Everybody does. And it takes just, being something as simple as talking to I don't know, your local police association, talking to, again, civic leaders, the people that you actually vote for.
Yes.
These are the people that are controlling what you do locally, at the state level, and at the federal level. So it is just as much as it is your right to go and vote, it is also your right to go create your voice. Go start by connecting with people. I think that's how, and it doesn't matter if it's in this country. It does, because again, like Mila, like Harpreet, you guys have heard the word foreigner. I mean, right? I mean, that's
Right.
Again, even Anthony, right? You've heard the same thing because you're from Canada. You're a foreigner.
But this is a global issue.
Yes,
This is not just the United States. This affects everyone everywhere, and it's got to fucking stop. I'm sorry. I'm sad. I'm angry, and I just feel like there's no justice. What had happened with George Floyd was criminal. It was criminal. When I saw that video, my throat sank into my stomach, and I couldn't understand why another human being could do that to somebody else. What was he doing that was so bad that he had to pin him down with his knee in his neck? Nobody deserves that. Nobody. I don't care who it is.
And that's such an act of coward and the act of a bully, right? And I've seen bullies. Bullies are not made overnight. Bullies from the playground grow up to be bullies as adults. And the fear of bullies at the playground manifest in bigger ways and manifest inherently even as adults. And that's what I saw when I saw the video. It was such a dehumanizing act. It was a demonizing act. Mm-hmm. It was, I felt as though even chickens are given the last words. Different religions practice differently. Like in Islam, they say a prayer. In Buddhism, they say a prayer before they slaughter animals. But George was treated worse than an animal. Worse than an animal. I felt as I was watching National Geographic channel where the hyenas will chase zebras, whatever, and hunt them down and eat. That's the vision I got when I was watching that. It's each of our social responsibility to stand up, speak up, and act up. It's like all of you said. It's a global epidemic. It's not the virus is not going to kill us. It's human cruelty is going to kill us, and people need to stop looking at melanin. You're created the way that you're created. You can't control the melanin in your skin. That's how God created you. And if we're going to be talking about, I'm a Christian, I'm this, I follow the Bible, cut that bloody bullshit out. Because God teaches you how to value each other as a human. And we need to really reach out to people and make them understand, because this is just not in society. This happens at the playground. this happens to 6-year-olds. This happens in the locker room. I've seen people kick each other in the locker room, right? I have been bullied before as a 9-year-old. I have been bullied before as a 5-year-old. So it's a behavior that repeats and manifests even in adulthood, and it needs to stop. And we can't just say, let's learn from it. What has happened, let's move on. And that really annoys me, because someone on Twitter said, we learn from it and move on. There's a difference between learning from it and moving forward together, as opposed to learning from it and moving on because you're dismissing the issue.
Yeah.
I think when I watched the video, I was horrified, absolutely horrified, because that wasn't humane. It wasn't humane behavior at all. And I'm going to tell you, I cried. My son, who is 24, he called me crying. My son never cries, never. And he said, Mommy, what is going on? How could somebody do that to another individual? He said, take out race. It's not humane to do something like that. So how do you answer questions like that? My kids right now are hurting because they see this as their future. And what a bleak future that is if we do nothing about it.
I mean, for me, seeing that video, first of all, I couldn't sit through the whole thing, right? Like I got maybe 3.5 minutes in, and it was enough for me. It was the most nauseating, twisted thing I could ever see, probably have ever seen. It was cold blood murder. And the complicity of the other 3 officers is probably even worse than the one that was wrong for doing it completely, right? I mean, the one that was wrong was a sociopath, probably, or something to that extent. Obviously, no regard for human life. The other 3 that sat there and did nothing to stop is so despicable, and so disgusting and scary that I couldn't watch it. I couldn't sit through it, right? Because I knew what the end result was, and I just couldn't watch it. And then I tried to talk to my kids about it, right? My 10-year-old and my 8-year-old. And they couldn't. Sorry, my 3-year-old wants to partake, apparently. The reality is they couldn't grasp or understand why did that happen? And I said, honestly, because the gentleman was black. And my kid looked at me and said, what does that matter? And that's the truth. What does it matter? And why should it matter? And why is that an issue? So if kids aren't naturally coming out this way, then what are we training them and teaching them? And at what point is labeling people in school at a young age, no matter what it is, whether it's ADD, ADHD, whether it's you're slow to develop, whether it's something else, at what point does being so free to create those labels at a young age open the door to start using labels to identify people? And I personally
don't we all bleed red? I mean, don't we bleed red?
Right. I mean,
obviously I'm from Philly, but we bleed red, right? All of us.
100%. And I feel like this is part of the system that's erred in its ways, right? Not only the reality of, where we're at. Sorry, I have to move now to follow the 3-year-old. She does run my life. But, at the same time, why in the education system are we breeding our children to create labels and freely use them for other children? And it's okay to do that in school. And then as they go through the system, it gets worse and worse. And I think it desensitizes everyone towards it. And I think that's where the systemic issue is perpetuated. And I feel like it's worse now than ever because I have ADHD, which I'm 41. And when I was in school, they never had anything as a diagnosis for that. But now there's probably 50 new things that they diagnosed in the last 20 years. And these labels are just ridiculous. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Mila has a better answer because that's her science, right? Or Tracy's perspective is probably at this point more important for us to educate ourselves as well, because I really want her perspective on this.
Like, if I could say something, it's like we have been conditioned since the day we have been exposed to other human interaction. It starts from our families. It is our parents, our grandparents, right? What were they exposed to? Whom were they exposed to? What were they taught? And that transfers, and that is created, recreated, reiterated so many times when we do not question, and that becomes normal. That becomes a dominant culture. That becomes a dominant practice with all of us. Even in our education system, as Mike said, right? What are we teaching in our schools? I do not know that in the United States you study moral education or social studies. Like, what are they teaching in all of those programs and classes? What kind of people or children do you see portrayed in the textbooks? What color are they? Right? Like, what are the narratives? I've heard narratives from acquaintances saying, "Oh, do not mix around with that child. He's dirty," just because of the skin color. And that's the wrong narrative. What are you teaching your 6-year-old? Because those are the formative years of children. Formative years. What are you teaching them without challenging them? And even in schools, right? Like, it's just not the flaw is not with the textbooks. It's also with the teachers. Who are the educators? Who are the educators coming in? How are they treating our students? How are they mistreating certain students? Well, I experienced it at university level when I went to university in the United States. My professor was a white man in his, I think, 50s or 60s. And when I questioned respectfully, he ignored me. When I questioned respectfully again, he ignored me again. And then I questioned him, "Why are you ignoring me? I'm asking you a question." He stared at me and looked away. And then, just because I said I wanted to take on the role as a leading role, and this was for a conflict resolution class. And when he attended to all of my other white classmates, he came back to me and said, "You can take on the role as a black crow." A black crow. Black is always related in a very discriminating manner.
Yes.
He related that to my skin color and as an immigrant, and as a foreign student. These are the narratives. These are the invisible things that are happening in our school systems, not just by the textbooks, not just by parents or the narrative, but also by educators in the system. So when we want to look at systemic issues, systemic goes back to textbooks. Who are writing these textbooks? Who are the educators? Who are publishing narratives? So we need to really look and question everything, and really expose how many of us listen to podcasts or news or read the news by people of color or black people, right? When we look at a book written by a black person or a podcast by a black person or a colored person, we just immediately switch off, and we need to stop doing that.
To add on to that, when you say, what are we teaching in the schools? It's a great question that you ask, but I think we naively assume that all the teachers are on the up and up. They're not racist, they're not, but that doesn't, that they bring all the prejudices that they have in that classroom, unfortunately, but they do. I have a story to tell. I remember my son went to private school, but I remember and he got in trouble a few times, but I remember his guidance counselor saying, when we were looking at colleges, "What are you wasting your money on him for?" Wow. My son went to Xavier in Cincinnati on a scholarship, a partial scholarship, but still, I believed in my son. I'm going to invest in my son. So education, because education is key.
Yeah. So just real quick, guys, I'm bringing in Cher Jones. She, again, say hello to Cher. She was going to be part of the conversation. So we're just quickly talking over about share just real quick what we thought the first time that we saw the video of what happened to George Floyd, and what were your initial reactions and emotions after you saw the video. So have you seen the whole 8-minute clip of him being
painfully? Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
kind of walk me through what you felt at that moment watching the video, because that's essentially what we've been talking about so far.
Okay, so for me, it's just one of those, it's horrifying, it's shocking. No one should ever watch a human die like that ever, period, end of story. And then on top of that, I hate the fact that I had to say not again. And that's what we're constantly seeing, because this is not new, and that's what I think we all have to recognize. This is the what's new about this is social media, and everybody has a video camera. What we're seeing today is not new. It's just the fact that we can actually see it, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's one of those. It's a reality check, because it's the reality. And so it's painful. It's been a heavy couple of weeks, and then this is on the heels of something that we just saw, again, equally painful. It's like, how many more hashtags do we need? And that's one of those things where it's like, again, this comes down to the evidence actually showcasing what is happening way more than we'd ever like to admit. I don't have stats to say how often it's happening, but it's happening too often. Just by that one video alone, it's happening too often.
Yeah, just one instance to me is
too much.
It's too much. I mean, I mean, that's why I think that there's so much rage upon this one that's happening now. That's why there's so much still carrying on, because this has been a powder keg that's been building. And yes, it goes away and then it comes back. Then it goes away. So it's Mike Brown. It's Sandra Bland. It's all of these people that have been going on. Trayvon Martin. Exactly. All these things that have been building and building case after case after case. And we get angry, then it goes away. Then we get angry, it goes away. And I think what has compounded that is the fact that people have been trapped in their homes because of everything that went on with COVID-19, and it's been building. And when all it took was the right match to light that powder keg, and boom, this is what has happened. So here's the thing. How do we take advantage of everybody being sick and tired of seeing this happen over and over again? Because to me, that's what's going to be the important factor that can come out of this situation, different from everything else that has happened prior, is how do we take the next steps to say, this is not acceptable. Not one life, not one death.
Right.
Crime or no crime does not deserve to die.
Yeah. I think the narrative right now, the anti-racism narrative, is a very, I love the momentum of it, because to be anti-racist is different from saying I'm not a racist. Right? It's completely different. And so what we're doing is we're shifting perspectives. I also think that accountability is key right now. And it's accountability for everyone. It's not accountability on just leadership. It's accountability on us to hold leadership accountable. It's accountability on us to show up and have a voice when we can, and to be safe when, because the thing is it's not safe for everybody at every time to have a voice. Right? So we just need to recognize that.
Well, I just wanted to ask before we started, kind of tell us how you feel, Katie, because again, you're 18 years old. You're seeing this from a different set of eyes. Again, we've seen it for over and over again, but you're experiencing it from, I'm about to enter into the adult world, So kind of walk us through what you feel about this as well.
Well, I think first reaction is the same as everyone else. It's horrifying. It's something that you want to believe that it's not true. You don't want to believe that the video is real. And I think that and part of the reason it was so upsetting is that it wasn't surprising to me.
Right.
It wasn't something that, as much as I didn't want to believe it was happening, it was something that I wasn't surprised that I was watching yet another video like it. And I think we talked about I did want to kind of mention this because I know we talked about how education can a lot of times be a part of the problem, but I also think it's where our solution lies. I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite teachers, Scott Callens. He ran this class called Community Connections where we were introduced to this whole curriculum that he made around identity and race and privilege. And I think it's classes like that, led by facilitators who are really trained, that though that's where like, we can do something about this and we can really educate people and have open dialogues. And I think one thing that I was asked that changed my perspective a lot is we had a person of color ask this question, and then I was also asked this question. And it was, how many times a day do you think about the color of your skin?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was crazy because like I answered never. I rarely ever think about the color of my skin. But my friend who is a person of color, like she said some outrageous number where it was basically like on her mind all the time. And I think that right there is an example how in that class and through that curriculum, we were able to create an understanding of what privilege is, because not having to think about the color of your skin is privilege. And that's something I know now. And I think being a young person and going through classes like that, I was really, really honored to be a part of that class. And I think we need more facilitators and the teacher's role, and we need more people taking those classes. And I'd love to see it be a staple part of our education.
Right.
So just real quick, guys. Mikhail, are you there, my friend? Can you hear me? Hello. Can you get the audio?
Yes, Mikhail.
Okay, Mikhail. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine.
I don't know. Can you hear me? That's the whole problem. We haven't.
There again, yes. And this is what we're here to talk about. So you tell me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you. Tell me about your perspective of it, because you're a Black man living in this world right now.
Okay.
You're having to deal with this. You know, what was your first thoughts and emotions when you? I'm sorry. I'm just. We're just talking about watching the video the first time we saw what happened with George Floyd.
No, I heard you. I heard you. I just couldn't access everything. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
But and just to set it off though, is Mikhail.
Mikhail. Yes, sir.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah, Mikhail. Yeah. So first seeing it, I was sitting back thinking like, y'all look what they doing to your people. That's what I thought.
You know.
And if that's what you want to know, I mean, I pretty much answered that question.
Yeah.
But that's what I felt like. You know, I felt like it ain't never going to, it does stop, but it's like, look what they're doing. Like, when is enough is enough. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
like, when you going to redeem us?
Yeah. So, you know.
And so, can I elaborate a little more on that, or you want me to?
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit more. Because, again, this is why I wanted to talk to you about this, because number one, you're the target audience. You're the target of everything that goes on. You have to deal with this more than what I would have to deal with this or anybody else. They're targeting. You're the prototypical person that they're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So
kind of that's true.
Elaborate. I mean, tell us because again,
like, what is it like to be a Black man in America? Is that what you asking me?
That's what I'm asking. That's what I want to know is, what is it like every day to wake up and know this is my skin color no matter what? Well,
first of all, I wake up, I don't think about my skin color because I don't have no limitations. Through the spirit that's inside of me, everything's beneath my feet. Now, that's me personally, but I don't mean I ain't subjected to trials, tribulations, and adversity. You know what I mean? So I go through it. In fact, I've been accused, falsely accused, like 18 times. I went to jail. So, and every time I went to jail, it's like I never got convicted. I was just out of more money. You understand what I'm saying? So it was like a money game. And when you're going in the courtroom and you're walking through and you're seeing everybody going to pay your tickets, everybody who you see in there look like me. You know what I'm saying? And so while I'm sitting in that place and I'm looking, I'm like, look at this. Like the Romans ain't never gonna stop. And then they treat you like there's a level of no respect, like you're beneath. Like you're beneath them because you may have a traffic violation. You know, there's a lot of people go to jail, you know, for traffic violations. You know what I'm saying? It ain't even a major fiasco, but it turns into one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to end up paying like, you know, $2,000-3,000, or if you got $5,000 on hand, you can pay that off to get out of there. So, you know, that's Christmas if that's what y'all want to go off. So, that's how I feel. You know, I don't feel like there's really no, at this point in the game, at this junction in life, but prior to Floyd, it was just, you got to pay more. You got to pay more to play. So what may cost y'all $2,000 may cost me $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes. And it's known and it's accepted, but there is no cap. So nobody's capping you. You just got to pay more to get higher.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
I think so. I think it comes back to that twice as hard for half as much, right? Those are things that, as a Black female, I grew up hearing that from my father. You have 2 strikes against you. You're a woman and you're Black. So you have to work harder. And that was, and then we see it every day as we navigate the world. My son posted something on Instagram, and it was just a reminder that it was about, you know, when we can travel again, how many Black people have checked to see where they're going, what the racism is like before they go. So like, I will always check if I'm traveling somewhere, it doesn't matter where I'm traveling, I would check how racist is it in Italy or Greece or England or South Carolina, wherever it is. That's part of my normal day. So like, these are the things that you don't even think about it. And that it's like, when I think about privilege, and privilege is a varying spectrum. There's lots of people, everybody has different privileges. But when I think about privilege is things that you don't have to do because. Just like there's tall person privilege and there's certain things that they don't have to do because they're tall. There's good looking people privilege. There's certain things that they just get away with because they look a certain way. And then we escalate up to white privilege and stuff like that. But when we think about just the privilege of you know, not having to think about, you know, to go to Mikhail's examples as far as when he's in court, the amount of things that he's going to get convicted of when it comes to traffic tickets or anything like that. There's very little leniency, and then there's just varying levels of privilege. But I think for me, when I saw my son's posting around traveling and the reminder that, oh yeah, I do Google every single time that I want to travel somewhere, I check to see if it's racist or not, or what the level of racism is. And then it's weird when you don't even think about these things, because it's just how you navigate the world. It's how you play the game. But when it's in your face, like, oh, I never thought about it. Yeah.
Sure, you brought up a great point. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Cher, yeah, like the singer, but I can't.
Right. You brought up a really great point about privilege, and most people do not even think about this, but even at the TSA line at the airport, random checks. How random are these checks?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And even to get seated at the restaurant, a lot of people, like, if you have got privilege, do you think twice? Why do you get a good seat? If you're colored or if you're Black, do you even get good service? Right? I saw this on TikTok where you have to put 10 fingers up, and Twitch and his wife did this. You know, like, put down your finger if you know, if you've been pulled over or whatever happens. And his wife only had, because his wife is white, and she only put one finger down, but Twitch had put all his fingers down. And to your point, that's reality. That's reality, right? And a lot of people do not have that awareness of how privilege is, what privilege is, even like getting onto the bus. Like, how many times do your Black friends, or, you know, if you have a Black colleague, how many times have you witnessed this? when you go inside the bus and your black colleague sits down and the person next to them, that typically is white, whoever it is, gets up and moves seats. Right. These are all invisible things that happen that we need to start becoming aware of.
Here's something visible that I'm going to, this is invisible. I'm going to make it visible right now. This is not okay with me. I am not okay with any of
I could tell your face when I was watching.
I am
when
like really upset.
reacted.
And I know it goes on, but there's acceptance in your voices. There's acceptance of this is the way it is. And it's just the way it is. And I get that. That's not okay. It's not okay. This has to change. And it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm not okay with this happening to you and you and you and you. It's not okay. I do not accept it. And I am a voice of white privilege. That's not my fault. That's who I am.
Correct.
But right? But I am the voice to say enough. Enough.
And I agree with Annie, right? Real quick, Mikhail, and I'm going to touch on something here. I'm so ignorant to differences in skin color and differences. I don't even notice them, right? Like I just don't. Like when the Cheerio commercial had the mixed couple, I didn't even notice. Like I literally had to see it on the news that people were in uproar to go back and notice that it was a mixed couple. I just don't notice it, you know. And sometimes I treat circumstances like I'm around the same people that are in the same cultures, that are in the same things. And I put my foot in my mouth because I say things that are out of place for my current environment. But it's because I live in this bubble of privilege and I've never realized, right? And I stayed silent for too long because I didn't think about it. I never saw the differences. So it never really, I thought that I was fine with it. But the reality is by me sitting back and being complacent, now it's not the same as being those 3 officers that were complacent, but it doesn't serve a purpose. There's no benefit to society. I'm not doing my children any good by not having real conversations with them and saying, this is what other people have to go through. You need to be empathetic for this. You need to understand that the world, 1, isn't fair. And 2, you need to be empathetic towards those circumstances because it's a different environment. You know, I'm empathetic to a no end and I make my share of mistakes and I own that immediately. But at the same time, it doesn't make it right. And I also need to be more aware and I need to learn. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to do this. I want to learn. I want to be better.
That's it. And I think it goes back to Katie, and she was talking about how she's learning in school and how important it is, because if you don't know, you don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like, how can you have empathy for something you don't even know about? But as we continue to educate, as we continue to have the conversations, as we as Black people can feel safer saying, hey, that hurts me, or you might not, because there is a fear amongst Black people in corporate specifically, where it's like, if I say something that might cost me my job or opportunity to move up because I look angry, or I look like.
Also, sorry, go ahead, Mikhail.
No, I was listening to the young lady. I mean, what she's saying, I agree with her. I mean, I me personally, I'm not in the corporate world, and you know, fortunately, the Most High, you know, funnels my bread. You know what I mean? But so I don't have to deal with all of that. You know what I mean? I'm my own man. So, but you know, but to see other people who I know who got to go through it, I see them bite their tongue. I see that they gotta, you know, if you want to say shuck and jive, you know what I'm saying? And me personally, I'm not in agreement with it, you know what I mean? But I mean, they got to do what they got to do, you know. But I do want to say this, you know, there's a lot of movement that let's just say brown people, because it ain't just Black, it's Spanish too, right? I mean, there are brothers too, and so there's a lot of movements that we just learn how to move within the curse. Okay, so let's just go there. Let's take that for what it is, right? I understand. What's your name? Annie, is that right, Annie? Okay, Annie, you say, you know, you feel bad about your white privilege. Listen, Don't feel bad about it. You know what I'm saying? Don't feel bad, you know, because those were part of the rules. See, your forefathers did that, right? Because they took advantage of the curse. You understand? There's a curse on Israel. There's a curse on us. And there was a curse on us for 400 years. So this was part of it. So I'm not even mad at you. You know what I'm saying? That's like getting mad at the belt when your father beat you. You know what I'm saying? You can't get mad at the belt. Y'all just won by default. That's just how it was. And that's just how it is. So I'm not mad at you, but you gotta move with that power wisely. And you also gotta move with knowing that somebody else is a tail, and easily you can shift in that same situation, you know. But there's no way you could subdue a whole nation without the permission of the Most High. It's impossible. Okay, I mean, it just ain't gonna happen unless spiritually it's permitted. So it was spiritually permitted, and now those 400 years is up, and now it's spiritually. Y'all have the spirit. America has the spiritual obligation to release us, right? Now, what does that do? That justifies even you, even the wrong that was done and the evil that was done under this curse that we were in. Because I mean, we're supposed to have it. Okay, cool, but we were supposed to be getting paid too. See what I'm saying? So y'all wouldn't have been able to build a whole country on our back. At least we would have had a shed somewhere that was truly ours. You know what I'm saying? So, but now the generations, myself, I'm 5th generation free. So I go starting at me, I'm the 5th generation free, right? So my forefathers, my family, right? My great grandmother, she died like 120 something years old. She was the first one free. However, she was mixed with Cherokee. So she was full, complete Cherokee, right? So the slaves who was on the ships, got away, started mixing with the Indians, okay? When they started mixing with the Indians, the white man got mad. Stop trying to hide the slaves. You know what I mean? So now you have a lot of blacks who will tell you in their life, well, I got Cherokee mixed in me. I got Indian mixed in me. And this is how come. Because they were taking us in, even though they were our brothers. Now, the Indians are Gad, right, of Israel, right? The Indians are Gad. Levites are Haitians. Benjamites are Jamaicans. The whole book is about us. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I'm better than. I'm not saying that you're less than. I'm not saying that you're better than. What I'm saying is that these are the rules that came to us and the repercussions for us going against our God. When you start taking on the gods of Egypt and Babylon, and then you expecting the blessings from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to fall upon you, you bugging. And you're living in a lie. So I can't sit back there and say to the belt, who's winning by default, only because I did what was wrong, right? Hey, stop beating me. Well, the belt actually enjoys his position, okay? I mean, if I was a belt, I guess I would like to hit somebody's flesh too. You know what I mean? But the Father's the one who's doing it. Yeah. So when Israel gets real with the fact that, one, accept Christ, period, point blank, leave all the false gods alone, you know what I'm saying? Forsake, denounce Baal, right? All our prophets who want to turn and do music for Satan. So it's not a black and white. It's not a green and brown. It's a good versus evil. It's a light against dark. And whether you're white or whether you're black, there's good devils who are white, or should I say there's good people who are devils who are white, which is wrong. There are good people in every color. Let me put it like that. There's good people in every color, and there's bad people in every color. And Satan works through whomever he chooses, right? So whoever chooses to allow themselves to be that vessel. And if my people, right, if the Most High's people, right, choose to keep getting money to destroy his people, don't expect to be protected when all hell breaks loose on you.
Yeah.
Because see, as it's written, this is what's written. It says the fall of Israel is the riches of the world. It says the diminishing of Israel is the riches of the Gentiles. The lie has been perpetuated to the people that we are Gentiles, and that's a lie. It's impossible. In order for us to be Gentiles, we got to get paid for somebody to be fallen.
Yeah. So, you know, and exactly what you're...
I mean, these are just the facts. And then it says in Romans. So what I'm saying is good against evil. That's what it is. It's Satan against God. And that's always been. It's Esau against Jacob. That's what it's always been. Regardless of the fact whether you want to acknowledge the Bible or not, and you're black, right? You can't deny the fact that your family actually come from slaves.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you want to accept the fact of the Bible that it says that these things are going to happen against Israel for going against God, the punishment that George Floyd went through, you can't deny that. We're actually living that. And whether you want to believe the Bible or not, if you start benefiting any other Gentile, financially from our fall, you shouldn't feel bad about it. That's by default, but that's what it says in the scriptures. That's what it says is going to happen. But it also says, you know what I'm saying? And so those are the facts. And so once we stand on a certain truth, now we can build the right pattern. But you can't correct, a broken leaning pizza from the top. You know what I'm saying? If you gotta straighten that thing out from the base. Okay. You know what I'm saying? From the foundation.
Yeah, I feel what you're talking about. So just to cover what you're saying, I get it as well, because because of my skin color, I'm Hispanic. You were brought over here, right? All your people were brought over here against your will. My people were already here. My people were already indigenous to what was going on. The Aztecs and the Mayas and
that's not so.
Oh, so
wait a minute, pause. Wait a minute, home.
Well, why don't
saying
we bring
that white people was already here
as far
when
as
black
what we
people
can do now?
got pulled over here?
Well, I mean, just to say about
that is what we got to do now. In order to fix what's going on currently, you got to deal with the reason why we're here in the first place. If you go in the house and you've realized that you're wet, right? You got to understand that it was raining outside prior to you coming in the house. So even though you wasn't born in this, even though you were born into it, you and me had nothing to do with it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? But these are things that already started.
And we also have to look at history, but I'm saying we have to look at history for sure, because it provides context to where we are now. But looking at where we are now, there are a lot of strategies that we have to put in place to empower people to have a stronger voice, to empower people to, at this point in history, at this junction in history where we're dealing, while I may be Christian, I hear what you're saying, we're dealing with a collective group of people who have to recognize that just from a basic humanity perspective, that this is wrong. And what is it we can do so that we can function today moving forward while recognizing history and doing the homework, because the homework is required, because it is context to what we're doing. But I think what would really be relevant in this, not to say that what you're saying is irrelevant, but what would be relevant going forward, or what are the strategies, what are the things that we can do as a group, as we move out there in society, as we navigate this space, recognizing different levels of access and privilege for different things. What can we do? Like, what are the suggestions? I would love to hear from Harpreet. I'd love to hear from Antonia. Since I've been on the broadcast, I've been talking way too much.
Well,
so
Cher, I'd love to answer that. I think that, first of all, we need to start with acceptance. Exactly. We need to accept what has happened, and then we need to look at it from a place of empathy, and then we need to educate. Mm-hmm. Once we educate with love, and we bring that forth to the rest of the human race. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown. It doesn't matter. What matters is that moving forward, everyone should have a voice. Everyone should have the same equality. Everyone should have the right to be who they are. I mean, you know, Cher, you and me, we live in the same city. It's a multicultural city. And for me, I grew up with people of many different cultures. And I saw them as just people, right? I was ignorant as well. And the more I kept on seeing it, and then I had my son, my 5-year-old son. And as soon as I had my son, things started to be more clearer, you know, because you want better for your children. And so I started seeing it more, and then I saw it more, and I saw it more. And then George Floyd happened. And then I started hearing stories from all my Black friends about how they live their day to day.
It's normal.
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Everyone should be able to wake up in the morning and be able to not think about their skin color, not think about, you know, whether or not they're going to be harmed in any way. Why should we feel unsafe to leave our homes?
Yeah.
To me, that's the showstopper. That's the game changer. That's where I say enough is enough.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, each one of us have our own way of, you know, we are in jobs, we are in corp world, we are speakers, we are coaches, right? So I actually did the same thing in my team today at Microsoft as well. Like, you know, it has to start from us, right? So I was talking to them 3 A's, right? Acknowledge. The first thing is acknowledge there is a problem.
Yes.
You know, just putting it under the table, and whenever something like this happens, we all like blah, 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 and we have this. But let's acknowledge there is racial injustice. It's grieved in our blood. And then affirm, right? Like listen to, have that empathy, listen to our Black friends, listen to those, you know, let's learn, let's amplify their voices, let's share their stories, and then act. Right? The way I can act in my role is that when I am hiring, I'm making sure all voices are heard. When I'm hiring, I'm making sure that the D&I is on top of my list. And it's not just that, oh my God, I have to hire that. I know I told my team, I will take the role to mentor more diverse people. At ground level, if we all start doing that, then we become a big cohort. We can keep waiting for big organizations to do that. It has to start from us as well, right? So that's my action plan. I'm going to make sure, you know, there is a peaceful protest happening, and all my community, like I'm from Sikh faith, and so we are going to go, and I'm going to take my kids so they know today it's our Black friends family, tomorrow it can be me. If I'm standing with them, they will stand with me. We are one, as I think Annie, you said, we all bleed the same color.
And I think another part of this, and not to cut you off, Harpreet, sorry. Another part of this is, right, I've already acknowledged the fact that I'm white privilege and that I finally understand what that means, and I'm educating myself around that. Here's the reality. This is a scary conversation for somebody who's white privileged. And we avoid this conversation at all lengths. Because we never know what to say, right? We feel like, you know, no matter what we say, we're going to be taking heat one direction or the other. And my vow for doing this is never to sit silent again. Is to learn and educate myself. Have these conversations on a regular basis. Continue this in perpetuity, because this is something that needs to happen. This conversation, for real change to happen, it is the education part, but a big part of this is actually not being scared of the conversation anymore. Having this conversation become a normal place, and having it become a topic of conversation for everybody to freely speak about. And when that happens, that's when it's not a stigma anymore. That's when it's not an issue. And that is, I think, what our ultimate goal should be, and how we strive to get there.
Yeah, and like you, Mike, I was exactly the same way. I was scared to talk about it because I didn't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. So real quick, let's take a moment. Welcome to grandfather of LinkedIn video. my little older brother. How you doing, Brian?
Hey guys.
What's up,
How
Ryan?
am I doing? My heart hurts, man. There are no words that it's hard to find words, to be honest.
So Ryan, let's do this for a second. I want to take you back to where we all started this conversation. What was your first thoughts when you saw that video for the first time?
I couldn't breathe. Like, I don't. Here's the thing, right? I'll never understand, and I think someone might have said this earlier. And I can't compare myself to anything. Look, I grew up different. I grew up with a neurological disease. I grew up getting bullied and treated different. I can understand components, okay? But because I was treated different, there were people that in my life didn't. People that treated me different and people that didn't. And I have to say, you know, like through most of my life, I always felt I wasn't quite sure if I was being truly treated as a kind human being. You know, I think someone might have said it earlier, like, Mike, I think it was you, like, I just look at, we're all human beings with a heartbeat. I don't look at anybody different. I look at, we're all human beings with a heartbeat. And, you know, talking about it and creating awareness gets us closer to change. You know, I wish that everyone would be treated equal to one another, independent of color and where you come from and where your family comes from. And, you know, we're all humans with minds and hearts and emotions and as different as all these things can be, you know, the one thing that we all have in common is love, right? I mean, we all, again, without this, we're not alive. Like, without this heart beating, we're not alive. And love for our fellow human beings and love for one another and love in the face of hate, you know? And I think it's a combination of awareness and understanding and voices being heard. There's a lot of angry people in this world right now. There's a lot of people that have been angry in this world for a really long time. And, you know, everyone's voice should be heard. There's no one person that should have a higher voice than another. That's not what society is. Reality, that's not what society is. That's wrong. In every form and fashion, in the world, in business, in everything. It's
Agreed.
not right. It's not right. And the only way that it's going to change, the more voices that speak, the more voices are heard, the more conversations that take place, the more solutions that can be created, the more mind can be changed, shifted, you know, and a lot of times there are predispositions in people's heads, not because of what they went through, because of what somebody told them.
Yes.
Not because of what they've seen, but because of they've heard through someone else. And it takes a collective whole to listen, seeking to understand. It takes empathy and compassion and love to make it, to change the world. You know, I don't hate anyone for being angry. I'm not mad at anybody because they're in pain and they're letting it out however they're letting it out. We're all going to experience it differently. We're all going to express it differently. But the one thing that we all have is love. And the more love that we can have for one another, the more love we can have for one another to speak and to voice their vibe and to speak up and to feel what they're feeling and to share what they're feeling and not be afraid to share what they're feeling with the with that feeling that if I speak up and share how I'm feeling, what's the person next to me going to think and feel? And do I have to be afraid about that? No matter what color you are. But the world that we live in is completely segregated.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the answers. I don't know how we're going to fix this. What I do know is the more we love one another, one person can affect another, can affect another, can affect another. And it starts with one voice. And there are 6 voices right here on the screen right now, coming from all different places, physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, like all of it, right? And it's the experiences that we go through ourselves that, and coming together like we're doing right now, that can affect change. I think that's the one thing that I think most people aren't thinking about or looking at, is the fact that we're having the conversation does affect change. Because the fact that we're having the conversation means that there's someone that's listening to the conversation. We're listening to the conversation. We're listening to one another. And the fact that we're doing this on social media means that there's at least another person out there that's hearing it. And if one person out there can be affected by that, hear and have a conversation with someone else about that, that's the ripple effect for the good.
Mm-hmm.
We can't expect to change things overnight. It's not, look at where we are. I mean, this has been happening for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But we here alive today, humans with a heartbeat, can affect change by using our voices and by having conversations and being okay with those conversations, the hard conversations that are happening right now. But the more we love one another, as humans with a heartbeat.
May I say something?
Please.
I can't even hear it.
Go ahead, Mikhail.
I don't know. All right.
We can hear you.
I appreciate me personally. I believe that at this point in the game, I mean, we're all sitting back like, what can we do to make everything better, right? But the truth of the matter is, we put ourselves here, Cher. We put ourselves. Our forefathers put it here. So you can't go on and act like we're walking in the daffodil park. That ain't really what it is. We got to straighten what the problem is that got us. You know what I'm saying? And when people start going against that God, that's what got us here. So we got to address that. So whomever is feeling they feeling okay, that's great. But it ain't going to stop nothing, because he said in there that he said he's going to remove the curse from us once or Israel gets saved. I mean, that's just it. So I could run to man and ask man to help me out. And, hey, please feel sorry. Please don't beat me so bad. But the truth of the matter is, spiritually, the curse was put on us. And spiritually, the curse got to free us. You see what I'm saying? So we need to address that. And trying to go forward without acknowledging that is going to keep you going in the same circle. You know what I mean? We got to face that reality. And once we accept that, then we can build and everybody can have a kumbaya. You know what I mean? But right now, we need to work on us. You know what I'm saying? And I feel the sentiment of the whole world. I feel everybody coming together. And I actually believe, but whether you white and you believe on Christ, whether you black, whether you an alien, whether you something from the inside of the earth, you still have salvation. But the severity of the punishments that have came on Israel is not the same severity of the punishments that they're experiencing. So we experiencing severe punishments. In turn, we have severe blessings too. But we got to do what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? And so I can't act like this stuff ain't really happening. I just know where it came from. It was only up until about 10 years ago that a white person actually told me, you know, because apparently a lot of white people know, right? But a white person told me that there was a curse on black people. And then he didn't want to talk about it no more. So that sparked me inside, like, what is he talking about? So that's when my eyes started kind of opening. You know, a white man who believed on Christ told me, you know? And so, other than that, you know, the churches where I went to, they didn't speak about that. You know, so that's all I got to say. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, if it came from the spirit realm, let's fix it in the spirit realm, and everybody can win.
Mhm.
But we can't act like the spirit realm is not really what's going on, because this truly is. And right now, everybody can see. Right now, the black man's the target. But everybody saw they wanted. I mean, the way it really looks to me, it seems like they want to kind of kill a lot of people here. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's kind of on their own a little bit. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure that you right spiritually with your creator, whether you green, black, purple, or lizard.
So,
that's all I got to say.
So why don't we take a step back from the religious side, just because there's diversity in religions, and I respect those as well. I believe that, you know, everybody has the right to choose how they worship their own direction, right? So why don't we look at a way that we can, separate from religious beliefs, is how do we unify, come together, and seek out solutions, right?
I think Mila had some solutions, because I know she wanted to share, then jump off. So maybe we can start with her. So
yeah. Solutions do not happen overnight. Solutions, it's not a quick change. It's not a quick fix. It's progressive, slow steps, and that's what I truly believe in. And we need to. I hear everyone's voice. We need to come collectively. It's not about individuals. It's not about me versus you. It's about collective effort. And I'm going to share the 4 ships. First, we need to truly create allyship, you know, in every space that we are. Let it be in schools, in our communities, even at the workplace, right? Like, Mike, you shout that, you know, you want to find solutions, you don't want to keep silent, and everyone is sharing that. Annie shout that too, you know, she wants solutions, she wants to help. And we need to create allyships, we need to create partnerships, we need to create sponsorships. Will you be there for each other? If you see something, will you sponsor to fight against it? Will you lift someone else up? We need to find hardship as well. Hardship is about looking at each other from a heart perspective. To Ryan, you know, and Mike, all of you mentioned it. I see you as a beating heart. Let me lift you up as a person. Let me see your emotions. Let me see you as a person living in this society, because I don't want to displace you. I want to enable you, because if I enable you, look at the way you will thrive. It's like a seed, right? The variables to a seed growing are the soil, sunlight, water, nutrients. Sunlight, water, nutrients are all of us helping other POCs or Black people up in our community. So form allyships, form partnerships, not just like, I will do something if you do something for me. True allyship. If you see something, say something. Even if it's at the workplace, if someone is getting bullied, right? I was so grateful, blessed to have an ally, a partner, a sponsor. When I was getting bullied during my corporate, I was getting bullied by an Amy Cooper. I was getting bullied by a Karen, right? And I had a white female colleague who said, I see you. I see what you're going through. Let me help you. Let's fight together. Those are the kind of solutions. Those are the kind of allies, sponsors, allyship, partnership, sponsorship, hardship that we need to build in our communities. If one person can say, like even in promotions, right? If a person of color gets passed off saying, you're not worth it, we need to question and say, no, I'm going to be a sponsor for this person. I'm going to be, because there's a difference between being a mentor and a sponsor. I'm going to sponsor you. I'm going to partner with you. And we truly need to make diversity, to Harpreet's point, we need to make diversity as an integral, holistic approach, as opposed to approaching it from a perspective like it's isolated, it belongs in the basement. Diversity does not belong in the basement, in a dark place beside the water cooler storage room. well, I feel that it's always haunted. No, diversity is a holistic approach where we see each other and we truly sponsor each other and say, I'm going to lift you up. I'm not going to step on you. I see you getting bullied. I'm going to lift you up. I'm going to be your voice. Because when someone is being oppressed, they lose their voice. They lose their confidence. They lose their identity.
Yeah.
So those are the four. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that in the sense of, I think we have to change the narrative, and this is going to sound controversial in the beginning, but I'll get there, is like, you know, and we're seeing Mike, for example, is like, you grew up saying, I don't see color. And I understand the sentiment behind that sentence. I understand what you're saying is like, you see people for people, but growing up as a Black woman, and I know I appear young, but I'm 46 years old. So I've been around long enough to navigate different varying degrees of how the world has changed. However, I have never not seen color. I always see color because that's how I have to navigate the world. And I think that, as I understand the sentiment around saying I don't see color, but I think it's like you guys actually do, but in the way of seeing the challenges that, because we don't have the privilege of not seeing color, because every single day I see why things don't happen because of a certain, you know, because of whatever, like, because obviously I'm going to go into my color, for example, as an example. And again, I recognize there's varying degrees of privilege because I know the way I speak, I'm able to make people more comfortable than someone who has an accent that represents a socioeconomic set. And I recognize that. So there's all these different things. But it's like, I think we have to, as people, educate us to see color and to see challenges and to see differences, as opposed to navigating in the I'm not a racist, as opposed to I'm anti-racist now, which challenges all of us to see color. So I'm just gonna drop that there and let everybody else stop.
And I just want to say one thing, and then Tracy can go. And I'm sorry. That is part of my privilege, and I see that today, right? I didn't see that before,
right?
You know, now what I'm looking at it as is, let's thrive on our unique differences. Let's be empathetic towards those differences and the different challenges that come with it, and let's grow together. Right? It's a different way. I see the color, I understand the differences, and now let's find a way to make it equal for all.
Yeah, it's like being intentional about seeing color, right? Yes. As opposed to the lens of I don't see color was in a good place in the heart, as far as I'm saying that because I don't see you as this. Exactly. I just see you as a person, but that's actually not helpful in order for us to move forward. So I hear what you're saying too. So yeah.
Go ahead, Tracy.
I hear what Shira is saying, and Shira, as being a Black professional, I have encountered probably the same thing. I squashed everything in on my job, like something racist happened or something was said to me. I didn't respond because, of course, you say, okay, if I get, you get where you're gonna lose your job, or you're gonna, you know. But I don't think that that really helped, and it wasn't beneficial. Okay, I've grown, and I have a voice, and I'm going to use my voice, not for hate, but to educate. So I understand, you know, completely.
Tracy, Dr. King, right? Martin Luther King Jr., he said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great.
Exactly.
Like, because greatness is determined by service. So I think you speaking up, you're great. And each one of us has that voice, right? Which, you know, we all are talking about, right? And so I think I've already talked about what are things which I'm going to do, you know, acknowledge, affirm, and then act. We can listen, we can learn, we can volunteer, we can coach, we can be a sponsor, we can be a mentor, we can be an ally, but let's not be quiet at this point. Let's not be quiet. Whatever we want to do, let's do that. Right. And I have to jump to attend to my little ones now. You know, and I'll leave with this one. People will forget what you did, or what you said to them, right? And people will forget what you did with them, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Maya Angelou, I
Maya.
remember when I went to Washington, DC, I took a picture, not because just for the sake of picture, because that gave me strength. Her statue, like she was so tall. I read about it, and I was a little like a little people person when I took that picture. But that even in that picture of her and that statue of that gave me power. And I'm like, I'm going to use this voice and say that, I'm going to be there for all people.
Right. And there's strength in numbers and strength in voices. And the more people do it, it gives people permission to have a voice as well, because there's still a lot of fear, but we're at this transition time. I really believe this is a great awakening. And it's awakening of voices, awakening of thoughts, awakening of perspective. And the more people use it, gives them momentum, because like Annie was talking before, and I can't remember who else was saying, is like that fear of saying the wrong thing. And you want to just say what you want, like you want to be there and the intention is there, the heart is there, but it's that fear. And just like the Black person, the fear of speaking out might cost me my job tomorrow. Not just, a promotion. I may not have my job.
Absolutely.
Cher, you taught me the be all end all tonight. I'm like, I can be done. You said it's, and a bunch of you have touched on it. It's first of all, two things: seeing and recognizing the color, not saying, I don't see color. It's recognizing it for the beauty of it. And also, being able to say, I'm not racist, but I'm anti-racism.
It's a huge difference.
Learning. If we didn't all get together here tonight, I would not have put that together. And I appreciate that so much. I'm so grateful for that learning tonight. So I just wanted to say thank you.
And I just learned that phraseology just recently, as far as how important it is to stay and connecting the dots in my own mind. So like, I think we're all learning at this point, right? Where it's just like, I'm learning as a Black woman, I'm learning and we're learning. And the more we have these conversations, the more Gabriel, as providing a platform for us to have that conversation, because Annie, somebody else watching is like, I just had their aha moment, like, oh, get it,
And that's the whole point behind this, right? This is the whole thing about creating these forums and using them for a way to educate.
Yeah.
This I tell everybody, this is a tool to educate. If you're not used to video and doing these things, we are a visual society. That's how we operate. We go to our visuals before we go to any of our other senses. So this is how we're going to have to learn and teach, by creating these sort of forums and creating these ways to tell people every single day, guess what? You know what? Yes, racism is there, but guess what? You don't have to accept it. You don't have to be that person. You literally can take the opportunity every single day. Black, white, Hispanic, Latino, Puerto Rican, whatever it is, whatever the race is, whatever you're talking about, you do not have to accept that and make that your fact every day. And we, as the teachers right now in the world, right, as the teachers, can teach the next generation what we as parents, as grandparents, as brothers and sisters, to teach the next generation that, hey, guys, what we learn about hatred, what we learn about racism, what we learn about all these things, these are all taught. So we have to unteach it. If that makes any sense, again, I have to teach my children every single day. I don't care if you come in contact with somebody that is a racist. That is not your reality. That is not who you are. You have a voice. Stand up and use it, or else you will become the victim. You will let the world crush you. You will let all these bad things happen to you. Okay? Again, that's why I said you have to teach at every single level, at the local level, at whatever level it is. You have to start teaching people. We have to start teaching, again, the youth here in America, especially, again, like in communities. Here's one problem that I see in communities where there is a huge Black population. why is there a disparity in the police force of who's policing us?
Mhm.
It is not reflective. It is not reflective of what the community is. If the community is 85% black, but yet there's 20 white people on the police force, what is that saying? Our youth is not even taking the opportunity to go, you know what? I could help police my own community. I could be part of it. I could grow in it because it's not cool. Oh, I'm a turncoat. I'm a rat. I'm an Uncle Tom. Whatever you want to say it is.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say it is that is not the truth. And if we don't take that next step and start teaching at the next level that, hey, we can police ourselves. I mean, that's how Black entrepreneurs start coming up. That's how all these things start happening. That's how all our people will learn, is that, again, we make it reflective of what we really are as a society, wherever we're at. So, again, we have the opportunity. Every single one of us here, I don't know about Cher, but I know the rest of them are parents.
Oh, I'm a parent.
You're a parent too. Okay,
I'm like a parent of old children. And they're not even children anymore.
But again, we get the chance. We get the chance every day, and that's how. If you don't think your voice counts or how you make impact, that's how you make impact.
Mhm.
The next generation, teaching them,
Model the way. Model the way.
what respect is. I was always taught that, and that's the one thing I am so gracious, and I have all the gratitude in the world that my father taught me, is to how to be respectful of other people. It does not matter how they look, even if they're different from me. I respect you until you give me a reason to lose respect for you. Other than that, you have my respect.
And just like we have to check our parents, because that's also the conversations that happen. And it's just like, because we got oh, he's old, he's just going to say that. And it's like, we need to model for our children that that's not okay. Just like when my eldest son, again, don't let this millennial looking face fool you. My Gen X needs to remind you every time that this is a lie. But my 24-year-old son, 24, graduated university, when I say certain things that were okay in the 80s and 90s to say, my son is like, Mom, you can't say that. And we have to do the same thing. And it's just recognizing that words hurt, words matter, word choices are very important. And I love it when my son corrects me, because it's like, oh, I done good, because he's checking me on things. And we have to do the same things to grandpa or to our old uncle, right? And we have to, that's not okay. Right? That is not okay. That's not true. And challenge those beliefs and words and language.
And I also have to add that I thought I knew it all. And then, like Cher, I have a 24-year-old. He'll be 25. Mm-hmm. And I have a 21-year-old. Mm-hmm. So some things that I said, I mean, they start screaming at me. And my children really, really educate me.
Yeah.
And I'm open to learn. And it's when you're not open to learn that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to what we started here tonight, right? And I would like to just hear if everybody or anybody has any kind of opinion on really crafting some kind of solutions to start really bridging the gap, because there is a huge gap between the community and law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Yes. We have again, and I know because I've felt it. I mean, I told this to Mike and I've told this to Annie before. I've called the police to come. A shooting in my neighborhood. I hear guns going off. I call the police. Right. I give them my address. I tell who I am. I call. They come to my house and then they ask for my ID. What do you need my ID for? Really? What is the whole point? I'm calling to try to help. Something's going wrong in the neighborhood. There's guns going off. Something's not right. And yet, you short of my doorstep instead of saying, thank you for calling, we'll look into it and investigate it and walk away, I'm getting asked for my ID. What does that have to do?
Mm-hmm. And that's a systemic policing issue that's almost beyond, like, because that's another broken system. Because what we're dealing with right now are a bunch of broken systems that need to be rebuilt. Because quite frankly, the system, the way it was built, is working just fine in the sense of what it was intended. So it was based, it's ultimately we're seeing a system of white supremacy that is now crumbling for a system for people, right? And we're literally rebooting an entire system. And so that's the challenge that we're dealing with. So I think it comes back down to what we we're talking about before, is those voices and not being silent and giving more power and momentum to more people having a voice, more people holding accountability to these organizations who right now, and I don't want to sit there with judgment, they're coming out with these strong statements. I will always eat Ben and Jerry's ice cream from now on. I have made a choice with my dollars. But ultimately, it's like, okay, you're saying that right now. Let me see you in 6 months. I hope that I don't expect to see transformation, but I expect to see incremental progress going towards change. And that's go ahead.
I have a question. Was I misinformed, or I have a police officer friend and I invited him on the show. I thought he could offer some insight from that perspective. Are you aware that of all the gag policies? I mean, they're not allowed to speak about any of it. In fact, I have a text right here from him after asking, and he said, I'd love to do something like that. But unfortunately, we have policies that will not let me do it. And this is part of the problem. Most police officers are muted by policy and can't be outspoken about this. If you ask the cops, they're outraged too. They care about their communities and they care about their people, but we can't say it. I mean, I don't know that the general public is aware of that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a challenge. You're talking about changing a culture of a system that was designed in a certain way.
Right, like you said.
Right. And so now it's just like one of those things where there are systems and checks and balances in place to protect that system. So working for the city, working in communications and PR is like, that would have to be approved before anybody got online. Like, there's just no way you can't do that. So it's to protect the system.
Understood. And bridging that gap just becomes even harder.
And, and again, right? We can't expect to change a system that's been broken for a long time overnight, right?
Exactly.
So it's going to take a while to get in there, but I think this is what you have to use at this point to at least get some kind of momentum going until we can actually see some kind of traction. Because, again, it's great that so many people are angry and frustrated, and all the, there's so many people that are wanting to see change. It's great to want to have change. It's another thing to do change, right? Mm-hmm. It's another thing to take the next step.
Take action.
That's why I tell people, yeah, exactly. You got to be, some of us are going to have to start teaching people how to be foot soldiers, knocking on doors and saying, hey, go out and register to vote. Mm-hmm. If you want to go make change the controlling people that are controlling what happens in your communities. That is how you're going to start making one of the first changes. And again, reaching out to, local police unions, local police departments, finding out ways if they have programs instituted. If they not, can you introduce, can you find a life coach or some kind of empathetic counseling to introduce in there? Find somebody who's willing to take the time out of their day to help a lot of these people, because I get it. They're tough. Their job is tough. Their life is on the line every single night. And yes, there are good police officers. Absolutely. Here's the problem. There are just some jobs where having a couple of bad apples is not acceptable. And that's one of them. I mean, can you have Chris Rock said this, and he said it kind of funnily as a joke, but he said, there are some jobs where you just can't have bad apples. And he said, for example, pilots. I mean, what do you want to say about, again, that sort of thing? And he said it jokingly, but he's being serious about it. Saying, hey, can you imagine a statement coming from American Airlines saying, hey, we do have a couple most of our pilots do like to land, but we do have a couple bad apples that do like to crash, and
that's just the way the system is.
Yeah, that's just the way it is, right? So hey, it's your luck if you get on a plane that's got a bad apple, right? No, that's not how it works. This is not how it works. So some jobs are not. It's not acceptable to have that going on in that thing, and that's one where you have people that have authority. They have autonomous authority, and they can be authority over anybody. It can be authority over a judge. It can be authority over anybody. If they have probable cause, they can throw you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to give them that control without saying, do you have to have some kind of check and balance in place? Something. I mean, if you're leaving it to a job like that, leaving it to judgment, don't you want to have people that have at least the best judgment going out there every single day? I would hope so. So how do we do that? How do we start getting that into the next level? I mean, again, there are so many life coaches. There are so many different people that you can go out there. And guys, I have, let me see. Hold on just a second. I've had somebody who's been trying to join the conversation all night. He's been having technical difficulties, but he wants to come in. So, Mike, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull you out just for a little bit.
That's fine.
And I want to, guys, let me introduce.
You can actually pull. I know Annie said she's got to go.
Yeah.
So you might want to pull Annie out.
Well, Annie, if you got to go, thank you so much. Take care. You have a great evening. I will talk to you again soon.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And then I will pull in, guys. Okay, let me move you out and let me pull in Rick. Rick, are you? Oh, hold on. Pull him out, and here we go. Oh, there he is. Hey, Rick, there you go. Now, we've been trying all night. I've been trying to get Rick in here all night. Poor Rick, I am so sorry. I do apologize. We had technical difficulties trying to work this out, but he's been following along with some of the conversation, and I would love to hear kind of like what you've been feeling and what are some of the things you've seen, because he's in the Washington D.C. area, is what I believe.
Yeah, it's basically from hearing everything that's going on. I would like to follow up on the latter, and that basically is. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, it's a systemic issue, right? It's a systemic issue that really lies within the foundation of this country, unfortunately. And, the evidence of that is that, I'm 46 as well, by the way. So the evidence of that is that, when I was in elementary school, right, they had announced that Black History Month was being created when I was in elementary school, right? And I began to look at, even at that moment as being a child in elementary school, I began to look at the textbooks.
Yeah.
Right. And when I began to look at the textbooks, I didn't see myself in there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see anybody who was like me in there. And one thing that, I began to notice is that if they did talk about me in there, it was the history was short. Mm-hmm. Right. The blur was about, slavery or whatever. And at that time, with the textbooks I had, it wasn't even talking about civil rights. I didn't even get to know what civil rights was or anything like that until Black History Month, again, like I said, was invented, right? And, when I began to look at it further as I got to middle school, right, I began to see racism, right, in the textbooks. Where, in the geography, Egypt was not even part of Africa, right? So they would teach me that Egypt is not a part of Africa, right? And that, Cleopatra was, more so Greek than she was African, right? More so than she was Egyptian, right? And then you see the movies and you see how it translates and escalates from that point on, right? So number one, by the time I got to college, right, I had to uneducate myself. And I realized that I wanted to go to a Black institution. I went to Howard University. Right, so I had to uneducate myself, and I had to ask about these matters, and I began to learn that everything that I learned from elementary school to high school was somewhat of a lie. And looking at the textbooks that they gave me, it was making a certain Eurocentric history longer than what it is, and I did not see myself in that history. Therefore, I was not a citizen. Therefore, I was not an American. Therefore, how do I now see myself? So I had to learn. And there's several books out there. You know, one of them is a famous one. You know, Lauryn Hill did an album playing off those words, Miseducation of a Negro. Right. So I was that miseducated Negro. I had to unlearn so I can learn. That's one thing. So it's systematic. We got to do something about what we're feeding our children. Right. No matter what race or creed. Right. We have to change the educational system. Right. With the educational system, it's not just in the educational system, it's in the politics. Right. It's interwoven in every single crevice. It's in the music industry. Right.
It's a system.
You know. Right. So what I propose, I know now we're talking about, you know, resolutions here, right? So not just education, but in the political system, which Gabriel just kind of covered that, you know, go out and vote, you know, and do your part, right? But there's also stuff that you can do outside of that. You don't need to be a president, right, to talk to anyone to make those type of changes in your school district. You don't have to be a president to actually physically go and see your local leaders, right, and talk to them and participate in the system, right, to change the system. There's certain things that you can do now. Racism, one thing that people don't understand about racism in a sense is that it's more so financial than anything else, right? Okay, you know, here it is, I have a plantation, and here it is, I have, you know, indentured servants and slaves and stuff of that nature, right? If they leave me, I have no income coming in, I have no control coming in, right? Therefore, I have no place for survival, right? You know, when I look at the whole world, right? When you look at the whole world and you look at, okay, well, if I am the last race to breed in the world, right, and everybody has these resources and I don't have any, then I need to make myself dominant in the world to be the control of resources. So one of the things that we need to do is that we need to participate in the distribution of wealth, right? We need to start manufacturing things. We need to start distributing things or whatever. At one point in time, there was a Black Wall Street, but now there is not. So I think that when we look at studying that and taking advantage of that and taking things back into controlling of our own destiny, right? Then we can start talking about change. We have to do our part, right? For one thing, we don't do our part. So the second thing is that we have to look at diversity, right? I know that Discovery Channel, National Geographic and stuff like that, right? They have diversity training in the workplace, right? So that needs to be implemented in all types of systems, in the political system, right? In the police precinct, right? In private industry, right? More diversity training. Because one thing I learned, there's a cultural difference here. There's a dialogue that we need to have, and not the dialogue we're having now, because we've been having that for so many years. I'm tired of talking, right? So not the dialogue that we're having now. The dialogue I'm talking about is a cultural diversity dialogue, right? So for example, I'll give an example. A kid runs when he sees the cop, right? The cop thinks he's running because he did something bad. The kid or the cop or the adult is running because they're scared they're going to get beat. So culturally, right, if you understand that, right, then you'll be like, oh, he's not running because he necessarily did something wrong. He's running because he's scared that I'm going to do something to him. Exactly. Right? He doesn't know necessarily whether he's going to survive this. Yeah. Right. So that is a cultural difference. And if we have this dialogue, right, we can understand these things and communicate better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, you know, I'm glad you were able to. I mean, I do apologize so much, Rick.
No, part of it was my fault because I had emergency in my family.
That's okay. But again, guys, thank you so much, every single one of you, for taking the time out of your evenings. I'm so appreciative of you coming on here and at least getting the conversation started in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Because again, at least we have these forums to go out here and start sharing our voices and creating more awareness, creating more opportunities, doing more things to get not even a resolution, because I don't think that's going to be possible in my lifetime. I don't think I'm going to be able to see that. But at least you got to start planting the seed now. I think you got to start.
Man, interrupt. I know you about to close out the show.
Yeah.
But as a black man who's actually experiencing this stuff for real, I totally agree with Rick. Okay. And Rick, I understand exactly what you're talking about, the systematic of tearing everything down. Now, if you ain't a black man, you might never understand this. And I hope that your kids never have to go through the example that I'm about to give you all. Right. When I was in third grade, our third grade teacher in New York told all of the class, back then it was 32 kids in the class. She told all of us to look around and look at each other. She told us to do that 3 times, right? 3 times, look around and look at, and then on the 3rd time, she said, make sure you stain this in your brain. And so we all looked at each other, and I still remember the way people were sitting back then. So after she said that, then she said, the reason why I told y'all to look around, she said, by the time y'all turn 21, 70% of y'all will be dead. She told that to a 3rd grader. So when I turned 10 years old, I didn't think, well, I got 50, 70 more years left. I thought I got 11 more years left to do anything I want to do.
Jeez Louise.
So it messes with your psyche. So I hear y'all, but all the rhetoric, like, you got to really understand the plight of a black man. You got to understand the psychological damage that has been done over years and years and years, and that even Rick himself, me, myself, and many other strong black kings had to actually overcome and tear down. And it may seem uncomfortable to hear, but it's the truth. If you open up this kind of forum, it's the truth you're going to have to accept.
Exactly.
And you can't say it's going to be all, you know what I'm saying? Let's just accept the truth. Hear what it did, and then that's it. But these are the real psychological issues that have damaged us, that we had to overcome, and that's the reason why the Most High comes into play. Because when you got everybody turning around looking at you, telling you dead, or you're gonna be dead, or you're no good, who else do you got to turn to but the Most High?
That's it.
One
that's
last
how I
thing,
end my case.
One last thing, if I may. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick. And then
the thing of it is that, you know, we really need to, you know, if we say we're going to make change, we need to make real change, right? And basically, you know, I know that, you know, when they come after people of my belief system, when they come after people of my complexion and skin color, the first thing that they attack is, you know, them physically, and then financially, right? And then they, you know, put our families against each other, right? You know, so one of the things that was recently said, I don't know if Shaquille O'Neal said it or somebody was talking about it, was that, no, LL Cool J did a rap about it, right? That's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's seen that. That was real powerful.
That's great.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stood out is that there's a movie I saw where, you know, I forgot what the movie was called, but he told them in the jury to close their eyes, right? And envision that, you know, their child was, you know, being raped or what have you, right? And then when they opened their eyes, right, imagine that the child was white, right? So it totally just changed their perception, because now they're seeing their child. It happened to their child, right? So what I'm saying is that, in a nutshell, is that you have to really look at the problem, because every problem has a solution, you know. And for the most, what LL Cool J said in that rap is that was so powerful to me was that you don't have to worry about a policeman coming in and barging and breaking your door, right, in the middle of the night, not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. So if we paint these pictures, right, so, you know, they said the revolution shouldn't be televised, but in this day and age, it kind of should.
It is.
It is.
It's the reason why the revolution is happening.
Right. But, you know, we got to look at, too, is that, you know, people's intentions, right? Because why is this happening now? Why didn't this happen a few people ago?
Yeah.
Right? Why is it happening now? Now you see all these commercials. Now you see all these people want to give money and spend money, and all these corporations chiming in and making commercials out of it. People making T-shirts out of it. And why now? Right? You know, why not before? So even though it's happening, right? Ride the wave, join the wave, participate, and let's make something happen.
There you go. Accountability. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, thank you, everybody, for watching this evening. I am so appreciative of you, Brian Shulman. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, my friend. Tracy, thank you so much. Cher, thank you so much. Rick, Mikhail, thank you, guys. You guys, again, this is all about Mikhail. I am bad with names.
It's all right, man. It's cool.
But again, I just want to thank you guys so much, and I just want to offer you all the gratitude in the world for taking the time and at least getting this out there. I mean, I don't know what it's going to do, but if at least put it out there somewhere in the world, I don't know, maybe it hits the right tone with somebody. That's all I can hope for. I mean, I can't hope for it to turn into something else altogether tonight, tomorrow, next week. But
it's just the continued action. It needs action every day.
And I have to do it every single day. Yep. And I'm sorry, I have to be positive every day. I know it's something that some people don't like. I don't
be uncomfortable every day. Exactly.
I don't care. I don't give a shit. It's not what what they want to do. If they want to go create their own fucking forums, they can. This is mine. This is what I do, and I bring the people on here to share what they have to share, and that is the whole point of it all. If I don't use this forum for what I have it for, then I am just wasting time. Literally wasting. I've just wasted 2 hours of your guys' time tonight, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. So
we appreciate you, Gabriel.
Thank you so much, everybody. I do appreciate it again. You guys have made this evening so successful. And again, thank you to Mike Padurano for helping me put this together. Thank you guys so much. All the gratitude in the world, and I will see you back again. Actually, I have a special show tomorrow. I am doing a Saturday edition, just so you know, but I will be back on Monday after that. And I will go back to another show, and I will be doing another one of these in 2 weeks in case anybody wants to reach out. So thank you guys so much again. Thank you, Cher. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, all of you guys. You've made this possible, and you guys have a good night. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Appreciate you.
Good night.